Why I neglected relationships and socializing in general to hyper focus on making money online in my late teens and early 20s. So this video I want to kind of just open up about why I spent most of my 20s, I'm currently 28 years old right now, why I spent most of my 20s mainly just focused on, finding ways of making money online aside from, socializing with people and even like getting into relationships and all that, right? So this is something that if you maybe resonate with me and maybe got into, if you started some side hustle early on, you might be able to relate to what I'm going to talk about in this video. And I also just kind of want to explain, I guess you could say, the psychology of why I operated, why I prioritize this over like relationships and building a family and all that, right? So I definitely believe that socializing is important. I believe that relationships are important, and you definitely should. I think it's good. I think humans just in general crave relationships. I know there's a lot of like division going on where there's this whole men versus women thing, but I think if we're being 100% honest, I think most of us would prefer to be in a relationship, and that's assuming that you find the right person and you vibe well with them. It's of course a good thing to have, right? And especially when it comes to starting a family, having kids and all that, then it is something that is worth pursuing, right? And that's of course in a society that is, worth having kids in, and I'll kind of talk about that as well. But real quick, if this is the first video that you're seeing of me, this YouTube channel is all about navigating the modern world as a young American. So if you are growing up in the US right now, you're trying to make a living, you're trying to create a comfortable lifestyle for yourself, maybe you want to start a family as well, then that's pretty much what this channel is all about. And I'm just talking about how I'm going about navigating through life in general in these kind of crazy times that we live in. So feel free to subscribe and check out some other videos that I have. But let's talk about why I got into online entrepreneurship, right? So I first, after I graduated from high school, I didn't really have much of a plan in terms of what I wanted to do. I went to university for like one semester. I thought I was going to go to get some career in like something with computers or technology or something like that. Or at one point I thought about being like a voice actor for like a, video games or something like that. So I thought about doing something like that. But shortly after I entered university, I started doing a bit of research on terms of, is university really worth it? And from what I've started hearing, back in 2017, 2018, around that time period, is I heard a lot of people talking about why university is a waste of time and money. And so the average person who goes to university, especially now with, the high cost of living, they end up in, 6 figures worth of debt, and they're not even guaranteed the position that they went to university for. So unless if you go for something very specific, like, something in the medical field that is like in super high demand, or maybe you go into a trade, then for the most part, you are likely not going to get the position that you went to university for. And so that's just the unfortunate, world that we live in. And I learned very early on to not take advice from old people as far as, okay, you gotta go to university, you gotta go to a good school, you gotta get a good career. And, because the thing that I've learned is older folks, especially, Gen X or, older Gen Xers, boomers, they grew up in a completely different environment that young people are growing up in. They had a completely different playing field, a completely different set of cards that they were dealt when they were, finishing up school. And, it was a lot more accessible for, you to just go to university after school, and then you get a good paying career, and then you get married, you have kids and all that good stuff right there. So the American dream, as we say, has been on the decline over the past 10, 20, even 30 years. And less people are getting married, less people are having kids, and a lot of that just has to do with the high cost of living just raising endlessly, right? So, and I also want to say that this is regardless of who's in office. So, left or right, doesn't really matter what side you're on or if you are independent. both now and the previous 4 years and the 4 years before that, the elites are continuing to print trillions of dollars every single year. So you could blame this on either side, but I just don't see it getting any better anytime soon. So for that reason, I believe that university is a huge waste of time, and most jobs in that you get, for, most young Americans, it's going to be like retail jobs or working in a restaurant. Maybe you happen to get a, decent paying position like selling cars or something like that. However, the thing that you have to be aware of is, regardless of, the wages that you're getting, the cost of living is going to continue to rise up. And so I personally believe that the next generation after Gen Z is going to have it even worse than us. So if you are like, Gen Z right now and you're thinking about starting a family, maybe you're single right now, in my personal opinion, and, take it for what it's worth. You don't have to take, the advice of some random, guy wearing a weird flannel shirt online. You could of course do whatever feels right for you. But with the high cost of living, I just don't see most people being able to start a family, in a comfortable setting, working just regular jobs compared to before. It's just becoming a lot more harder to achieve that same type of, comfortable lifestyle. And unfortunately with, the high cost of living, everyone just working nonstop. So one thing that has always bothered me from the time that I got my very first job working in a restaurant that was local to me, I worked as a busboy at the age of 16. Very early on, I always hated the fact that, whenever there was a, family event coming up or a holiday, I always hated the fact that I had to work those days usually. And so that meant that I, missed out on family time, and I would always have to ask permission for days off in advance. And it is just a thing that you have to do, if you want to spend time with family. So I knew that if I wanted to ever, start a family and, go that whole traditional route, that it would be a lot harder to spend, time with kids and all that if you are working endlessly. And so most marriages, from what I see, it's both the man and the woman working 40 plus hours a week. That gives you less time to spend with your kid. Having kids in itself is super expensive. You got to go, first of all, people are going into debt for a wedding, which makes no sense to me at all. And then you have the cost of raising a kid. Then you have the high divorce rates. It's like 50% in the West. And then you of course have the whole risk of, if you're a guy and you get married, then if she decides to divorce you for whatever reason, if she gets bored or she meets someone else or she cheats, she can have you paying child support for a kid that isn't yours. And that's one unfortunate reality that I see playing out quite a lot right now. So yeah, it's very risky, especially for guys. But on top of all of that, it is just very difficult to, live a comfortable life. So what I see most young Americans doing is they're just working regular jobs, and either they're staying in with parents or they're just living by themselves. And that's kind of a sad reality to think about. So I first started looking for ways of making money online when I was 19 years old, because I knew I didn't want to work the regular, corporate America type jobs. At the time, I was working as a bagger in a grocery store. And then I started looking online for like jobs in my local area. I came across some scam site that promised you could make, tens of thousands of dollars if you just, like spam links online or something like that. And when I looked at reviews of it, there was one that mentioned, like, if you really want to learn how to make money online, I recommend get into digital marketing. And so that's where you promote other companies' products online, and you make a commission when someone clicks on your link and they buy the product. So from there, I felt, okay, well, I don't really have much else of a purpose for me, so I might as well get into this. And as I, got into, this industry, I've always been the type of person where when I get into something, I kind of just hyper focus on it to the point where I sometimes lose sight of other things. So, because, running, doing an online business and doing things like creating content takes a lot of time, especially when you're already working 40 plus hours a week, then it gives you very little time to do other things like, spend time with friends or date as much. And that definitely, you definitely do have to sacrifice a bit in those other areas if you want to be, create, sustainable income and, be in a position where you have total freedom. So I decided very early on that that was what I wanted to do, because I seen, as I've, mainly focused on making money, I've seen a lot of friends that I've had throughout school. They get into relationships, and more often than not, there's some type of cheating going on, or I see less and less relationships that, lasting. So that's kind of got me thinking, like, is it really worth investing the time and energy when most relationships aren't working? Now, you could say that it's because of, men. You could say it's because of women. You could say it's because of social media. You could say it's for whatever reason. But the fact of the matter is, relationships are just not working in this current era that we live in, this current society, where it's a lot more accessible to just reach out to anyone, in like a minute. You just look them up on social media, you send them a message, and yeah, so it's just a thing, just a product of our environment that we live in right now. So as I've continued focusing on making money, I, of course, every now and then think, okay, well, it would be nice to start a family, but considering how highly expensive it is, it would be better if I get myself in a position where I am able to, have total freedom, time freedom, money freedom. And I believe location freedom is one of the best things that young people can really focus on, because you can maybe make, a couple $1,000s a month online, and then you could live wherever you want. So maybe it's too expensive in your area. Maybe you decide to live in a city where cost of living is cheaper. Maybe you decide to, live in your car for a bit, or you live in hotels, or you live off grid, or you live in an RV. So there's many different things you could do when you are making money online, and it just gives you a lot more flexibility. So, for that reason, the main thing that I value most right now in this era that we live in is I value flexibility. I value not having too many liabilities holding me down. And I also just want to spend more time with family. I want to be able to provide better support for my mom. One thing that has always really bothered me is just seeing her work 40 hours a week at a job, but, constantly feeling stressed out because she's being overworked. And then she ended up, breaking her arm because of all this manual labor she was doing. And that's just one thing that definitely affects me. I want to see everyone around me do well. And I believe that the best interest for me, being the type of person that I am, is I could be the person that is able to provide more financial support for myself, be able to spend more time with family, but also when I'm in a position where I could show people, like, hey, here's how I was able to escape the 9-to-5 rat race, then I could easily pass on the information that I've gained over the years over to other people as well around me. And so that is just my overall type of thinking, and why I've ended up, investing most of my 20s just focused on making money. Now, that being said, the other question that I want to answer is, where has that actually gotten me? Like, am I earning, tens of thousands of dollars a month online? Am I traveling all around the world? Well, I'm not exactly doing that yet. I'm not exactly, earning 10K plus a month online. I thought that I would be making a lot more money at this time, if I'm being 100% honest. I've made thousands of dollars a month online, and I have at times done very well for myself. I've been on like leaderboards of different affiliate programs. However, I've definitely had a lot of ups and downs, and that was depending on, I've had social media platforms that were shut down at times. I've had different programs that I promoted that, changed up their compensation plan, some things that went away. So I've definitely learned a lot over the years, and I've learned like what works, what doesn't work, and I have a much better understanding of what to really focus on. However, that is definitely the price that I paid. So most people who get into, who look into different ways of making money online, they're not going to, become rich within, a year or 2 years. For a lot of people, it can take, a couple years before you really figure out what really works for you. And that is really the main reason why I believe that it is best that you start young. So if you are in, your early 20s right now, or you're kind of entering, you're just kind of entering the workforce, and you want the chance of having a comfortable lifestyle, then you really want to invest your time wisely and try out different ways of making money online. Be very dedicated to something, learn how to do things like content creation, learn how to run ads, learn how to set up, sales funnels online, depending on what, business you're doing. But I believe that the best thing that you can invest your time and money on is learning how to generate attention. That's really going to be one of the best things that you could do, because when you learn that skill and you learn how to create content that goes out, goes viral, or you learn how to run ads and you learn how to build, like generate leads online, then that one skill alone can benefit you with selling or marketing just about anything that you want online. So that is really what I wanted to pass on in this video. If you made it all the way to the end here, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this message. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with anything that I mentioned, or if there's anything that you want to add. Feel free to drop your thoughts down below, and I will be sure to check all your comments. So if you want to see what I do to earn an income online, and you want to see how I've been building up residual income, then you could check out the link down below, and you can learn more about what it is that I do. So check it out down below if you're interested. Otherwise, take care and see you in the next video.